God bless you one and all, and welcome back to the Bishop's Corner. And of course, my name is Bishop Dr. Herbert N. Scott, the Chief Prelate of the Liberty Hall Cathedral of Praise, right here in the heart of Brooklyn. Welcome once again to the Bishop's Corner. And we just want to shout out to the man of himself that's doing a tremendous job, Philip Reed, who is affectionately known as Dr. Phil. And we are so thanking God for the vision that the Lord has placed on him to begin this adventure, the Bishop's Corner. And certainly tonight, we want to thank God for the guests that we do have. We are blessed to have tonight, Guillermo Bermudex, that's with us tonight. Can we put our hands together and make him feel welcome? Okay, thank you very much, young man, for joining us tonight on the Bishop's Corner. Okay, we are also blessed tonight to have Pastor Samuel Brown that is with us. Can we put our hands together and make him feel welcome? God bless you, man of God. Certainly a pleasure to have you on the Bishop's Corner. We're also blessed tonight to have with us young man Leroy Yance that is with us. Once again, can we make him feel welcome? Gentlemen, certainly it's a pleasure to have you on the Bishop's Corner. We do have a tremendous subject matter that we are dealing with tonight. Money matters. Investing essentials. Investing essentials. However, before we should go into that, we are honored to have, as I said, the man who is responsible for the Bishop's Corner, Dr. Phil, with us. Now, this time he will be weighing in and telling us some important facts. Dr. Phil, it's in your hands, sir. Thank you much.
Well, thank you so much, Bishop. I appreciate that. I'm just going to be quickly sharing some information with our audience, primarily about our website. Okay, it's great. We have moved into establishing the Bishop's Corner as its own entity. It is now the Bishop's Corner International LLC. And what that is we're looking to build a collaboration of different ministries to help guide and counsel other ministers, as well as train others in the form of evangelism and in missions. So, but if you'd like to join the program, let me start with the first page that you're looking at. You can just go to BCI TV, BCI-TV.com, and there you get some information as to how you can join us live in the room in studio for the Bishop's Corner. You can ask your questions when they have programs like this, and so on and so forth. So we want to encourage you to do that, as well as register your church. Okay, register your church or your organization by just clicking register here. And you'll be partnering with us when it comes to evangelism and missions. All right, that's our primary focus. So we're going to be doing we're looking to develop a school of evangelism. We're going to change that. It's going to be a school of ministry and a school of missions. What that is basically the school of ministry is going to be a counseling platform or area where you can come in as under whatever name you would like, if you don't want to be identified, and have discussions about subjects that may concern you. We know everybody has something that they're dealing with, and pastors are humans too, ministers are humans too. So if they can talk about it and help, we can help them get over something. That would be great. So I'm excited about that, as well as the School of Evangelism. We're partnering with the Liberty Hall Bible Institute in order to kind of get start the curriculum for that, and we'll be building from that. It's going to be one full year of discussion on evangelism. And if you want to move on further, you can join the Liberty Hall Bible Institute, and so you can become more certified and more educated in that area, as well as the School of Mission. So all of this is what's coming down the pike. We're very excited about that. I think it's going to be very empowering for the body of Christ, as well as if you're looking to donate to the Bishop's Corner, we have a donation page as well as a page that you can click to watch us live on either Roku or Amazon Fire TV. So that's where we are now. Very exciting. Thank you so much, guys. Appreciate you. I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Guillermo at this time, and he's going to go into a little bit of the subject that we'll be talking about today. Go ahead, Guillermo.
Yeah, good evening, everybody. My name is Guillermo Bermudex. I am portfolio manager of Western Capital, which is a money manager in Puerto Rico. I also have a YouTube channel called Finance ABC, which is dedicated to financial education. Now, we've been tasked to talk about the common terminology used in investing. And like Elon Musk says, in order to understand the complex matter, you have to go to the trunk first. You know, he compares topics as a tree. You know, there's the trunk, which has the main ideas, and then you go into the branches, which has some details, and then into the leaves, which has further details. So when you invest money, all you're really doing is you're postponing consumption. You have money, you put it out with the hope of receiving more money in the future. Now, there's basically three areas where you can invest your money in the financial markets. One is stocks, also called equities. These have traditionally yielded 10% per year. There's also what they call bonds or fixed income, meaning that you receive a fixed amount every year in return. That's the interest coupon that you have. And that traditionally has been about 5% return per year. And then there's cash, which is also money markets. And traditionally that has yielded around 2%. So when you're investing for your retirement, you have a long time horizon. And so you want to compound your money at the highest possible rate, because in doing so, your money will grow exponentially. So you have to understand in the equity markets, you know, you have volatility in the short term. So prices go up and down in sometimes unpredictable manner. But you have to understand that in the long term, there is going to be growth. And so looking at the short-term volatility, people get scared and they say, no, I don't want that. I want, you know, steady income. And so they go for a lower yielding asset. And that's a mistake, because then your money doesn't compound as fast. So the compounding means that the return you receive in 1 year becomes part of your principal in the second year. And so 10% in 1 year is going to be less than 10% in the second year, because the second year begins with the principal you had already, plus the 10% you earned a year before. And so that's basically, you know, an introduction to the framework of investing, the trunk, as Elon Musk will call it. And then we could talk about different iterations, you know, in the branches and the leaves.
Okay, well said indeed, young man. Thank you very, very much. Dr. Phil, thank you very much for that introduction. Also, let's get tonight into our main subject, money matters, investing essentials. Investing essentials. Now, we've just heard from Guillermo, and although this really is not a question, but I want to make it a question. Money matters, investing essential. Why is it that investing is somewhat essential? Why would you say that investing is essential? Let's put that back to the gentleman who just spoke, Guillermo. How say you, sir?
I would say investing is essential because if you don't do it, you're never going to have enough money in retirement.
Mm.
If you save under your mattress, you know, $170 a month. That's about $2,000 a year. You just put it under your mattress and it doesn't generate any income, any return. You would say your money is safe there, right? And so over 50 years, $2,000 a year over 50 years would be about $100,000 that you would have stashed under your mattress. If it's not invested, that doesn't earn any money, any income. But if you instead invested in the stock market in an index fund, for example, that traditionally has yielded 10% per year, that $100,000 that you invest over 50 years would actually grow to be $2.9 million. So that growth is, helps you plan for your retirement. Instead of having $100,000, which sounds like a lot of money to some people, it's nowhere near as much as 2.9 million.
Sure. Thank you very much. Well said indeed. Okay, let's hear from Leroy. Leroy, why is investing really essential?
Warren Buffett, who's arguably the greatest investor of all time, stated that if you can't find ways to make money while you sleep, you will work until the day you die. So the whole point of putting your money into the stock market or into any sort of investment account would be so that when you get older, none of us want to work till we die. We all talk about when we retire, but if you're not putting anything aside for your retirement, how are you going to live? Social Security ain't going to cut it. In the United States, I don't know what it is in other countries, what they have, but Social Security here, that's not going to cut it. So you want to be able to have some money set aside. And it's really, I think people make investing more difficult than what it is, because we're used to those drama movies like Wolf of Wall Street, where everybody's down on the floor of the stock market, yes, and they're yelling, screaming, buy, 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 sell, sell, sell. And they're watching that ticker symbol go by, and you've got to be on it like this. Well, that's trading. That's not investing. And people think that that's all the stock market is. So it's a misconception. Warren Buffett stated that he will buy a position, and he buys that position under the belief that the next day the stock market will close for 5 years. And he holds that position for at least 5 years. And in those 5 years it grows. I've only been investing for end of 2017, so we're looking at 5-6 years, and I've already seen huge exponential growth on my on my portfolio. And I mean, to me it's huge. I'd probably put $3,000 into an investment account and it's worth like $8,000 now, but I mean, that's pretty good. And that's what you want. You want that growth so that you can live in your retirement at least semi-comfortably, because that's the goal all of us have.
Amen. Definitely, sir. Definitely, indeed. Okay, let's put that same question to Pastor Brown. Man of God, how say you?
Indeed, sir. And it brings me back to the philosophy of the Jews. In their culture, the parent would save for the grandchildren. And as the man of God spoke about compound interest, to me, that's a great definition of compound interest, because they're saving not for the generation to come, but for the generation after that generation. So for me, investment, and why I would invest and why I believe people should invest, is to keep your future economy strong financially, and to help to build generational wealth, to get rid of poverty, and to increase the next generation financially, to make them better than where we are, and to do more than what we could ever do. So I believe that if we investment is telling me that I am doing something for the next level, for the next generation, for the next 50 years, for the next 20 years. That means I have a goal, I have a vision, And to achieve those goals, as the man of God said, working and put the money underneath the mattress will not increase in volume. So I believe that when you invest, you're increasing your money in volume.
Okay, sounds good indeed, gentlemen. Thank you very much. Okay, well, as I said, the main subject, money matters, investing essentials. Part one, terminologies in investing and their application. The question is this: what are some key terminologies individuals need to understand when navigating the stock exchange? And how can they apply this knowledge to make informed investment decisions? Well, two parts really. Let's do the first part first. And let's put that first of all to Leroy. How say you?
I guess some basic terminology you'd really need are, you want to know the difference between a stock and a bond. You want to know what a individual stock is, or say an ETF or an index fund. And an individual stock is just a company. That's all it is. And by owning that stock, by buying a piece of that stock, you literally become an owner of that company. Mm-hmm. An ETF is, imagine a basket with a whole bunch of pieces of different companies in that basket, and you just buy the basket. So you're getting a deal. You're getting a deal on a bunch of different stocks that mirror, or one stock that mirrors all those, say 500 stocks or whatever. You definitely need to know what a brokerage is. And I'm assuming, as I'm talking right now, I'm assuming that somebody is wanting to do this on their own. They're not trying to pay somebody else to do it. So all they want to do is they want to learn how to do it on their own. They don't want to pay anybody else. So you want to find a brokerage house, which would be something like Robinhood, TD Ameritrade, M1 Finance, Acorns. There's a bunch of them out there. They're called robo advisors. And then you have some that are the robo advisors where you just send them the money and they invest it for you. You can go to your local credit union. Many credit unions have a financial advisor there that can invest your money for you. So, but like I said, if this is somebody that's trying to get back and they're trying to do it themselves, for starters, you just want to learn about a brokerage house, and then how to buy. And I would say YouTube's a great resource. I know Guillermo at Finance ABCs. He has a lot of videos on investing and long-term investing. So like my channel, 40 and Broke, it's more about budgeting and how to get the money so you can invest, because we all need money to invest. So, and then I would just say that as you're learning, the one thing you want to do is just do it. Just do it. That's just basically it. 'Cause you can't learn without doing. You can sit there and watch somebody drive a car all day long, but until you get behind the wheel, you're not going to learn anything. So that would be my biggest thing. Just figure out the handful of the terms, and then just go down a YouTube rabbit hole and just start doing it. That's what I had to do. Start doing it. Make those mistakes. Watch videos, learn from other people's mistakes, make the mistakes, buy the penny stocks, because everybody wants to get rich quick. They always see the penny stocks, and then the next thing you know, you're going to be 6 months, a year into it, and you're like, well, that was dumb. I just wasted a bunch of money on penny stocks, and I should have been doing this over here. Like this guy, like Guillermo told me, I should have just been investing long term, and I should have stayed away from the penny stocks. But that's just what it is. You just got to do it.
Okay, sounds good indeed, sir. Okay, let's hear from Pastor Browner this time. Man of God, inform
yeah,
us.
absolutely. I would say understand what dividend is.
Mm-hmm.
because a company that has a PE ratio, or what we call price to earning income, would be a good place to start, or a good company to start to invest in. And of course, when you invest in the company, you're literally are a partial owner of that company. And what some company will do, they will pay you to invest with them. So for instance, say a company has a PE ratio of, say, $5. What they're literally telling you is that every $5 you invest in us, we give you $5. That's literally what they're telling you. So even if your stock is going down, say you invest, say, a portion amount of money, and you see your portfolio looks a little bit red, now they're committed to give you that amount of percentage on your money invested with them, regardless of what the company is doing. If the stock price is high or low, if they're committed to give it to you every month or every quarter, every year, they have to give you that amount of money by obligation. So I believe that if you know what dividend is and learn the PE ratio of companies, then that will give you a better understanding and idea on which company to invest in and how to go about it.
Okay, thank you much, sir. Well said indeed. Okay, let's hear it this time from Guillermo. My friend, how say you? You're muted.
Sorry, I would say that for the beginner investor, the better thing to do is to invest in the index, in the S&P 500 index through the ETF. The symbol is SPY. You will be investing in 500 of the largest companies in the United States. And, your money will be well diversified. And it will grow with time, and you will receive dividends, and the companies will be making earnings, and you don't really need to know a lot about complex math or what each individual company in the index does. You could be certain that if you invest in the index, you're going to be participating in the growth of the economy. If you invest in individual stocks, you need to have done some research on each stock you invest in order for you to make a sensible decision. Otherwise, you could lose money in individual stocks. You cannot lose money investing in the index if you hold the investment for the long term. If you hold the investment for the long term in individual stocks can go out of business. Even the best companies in the world can go out of business, and they do. At the turn of the 19th century to the 20th century, the biggest companies were steel companies and railroads. Those were the technology companies back then. Today, a lot of those companies are out of business. When the car started, there were 3,000 different car companies, and most of them went out of business. Look at Pan American Airlines, the biggest airline in the world at one point in time. Now it's gone. It's out of business. The stock price went to zero. So if you had invested in those companies, you would have lost money while the economy continued to grow. And if you were in the index, you would not have lost money. You would have grown your money. So for the Warren Buffett says, like Leroy quoted him, that if you know nothing about investing, invest in the S&P 500 index, and you will do very well indeed.
Okay, well said indeed. Okay, there's some terms that I came across, and I'm hoping that you guys can help me. Assets allocation. What do we mean by asset allocation? Can someone educate me, please?
Yeah, that has to do with dividing your investment between the baskets of equities, fixed income, and cash. And I think allocating your money between those baskets while you're saving for your retirement is a mistake. You should have all your money in the basket that gives you the highest return so that your money can compound over time. Now, this is something that a lot of money managers would not tell you to do. Everybody's going to tell you, oh, the safe thing is to split your money between stocks and bonds so that, there is the volatility in stocks in the short term is dampened. But it's a mistake because it will make your money compound at a lower rate. It will compound at maybe 8%, 7%, or even 6%, depending on the allocation that you choose. But if you put 100% of your money in equities in the index, it will compound at 10%. And that will give you the biggest growth in the long term.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay. If not, there's another term that came to mind: market. Volatility. Market volatility. What does that mean?
That is the nature of the animal. The equity market has short-term volatility. It always will have it because it's part of the human nature. Everybody has emotions. When you have greed, you're gonna bid stock prices very high in the short term. And then when you have fear, you're gonna bid them very low. And the stock prices are gonna oscillate between high and low in the short term. But in the long term, if you're invested in an index with the biggest companies in the United States, it's going to grow over time as the economy progresses and grows with time.
Okay, as it grows with time. Anyone else like to chime in on that?
Yeah. So I would encourage a person who is going to invest, even long term, to learn how to balance their portfolio and to rebalance your portfolio, because over time I think it can be beneficial to them, and to understand the VIX, VIX, which measures fear. Because in the stock market, you have what we call the fear and greed index. And it's a good indicator of where the market is going and what to expect. So I would say, a person learn to rebalance your portfolio, because of course you're diversified in your portfolio. So it's good to rebalance it because of the volatility, because everything doesn't goes up at the same time. And everything doesn't come down at the same time. So at certain time, you can rebalance your portfolio by, say, you selling one asset and you use it to purchase another asset. And you end up with more of one particular asset, and that will help your portfolio to grow. Last but not least, sometimes we see a portfolio at a certain level and it looks nice and we tell everybody, oh, I'm up this amount. And then 2 days later, you are down 30%. And you say, what happened? You see, it's because of the volatility in the market, because maybe the S&P, maybe the Fed minutes come out, and the Fed is a terminology that we use. Maybe he was hawkish. Hawkish is aggressive, to bring inflation down. So he might say words that the market doesn't like, and the market will sell off. And so your portfolio will drop. Or it could be very dovish. which means he's very tender. He's saying that we won't have any recession anytime soon. I'm going to cut the rates 4 times this year and so forth and so on. And that the market loves, so the market will go up. So your portfolio will fluctuate. It goes up and it goes down. But of course, if you're investing long-term, 5, 10, 15 years, then of course you will acknowledge and you will actualize great gain.
Okay. Anyone else like to chime in on that? Because the way you guys are speaking, it's like, I mean, this thing is like nothing to you guys, but to someone who really don't understand these words, it's like, wow, what are they saying? Anyone
Well,
else?
I think that's where I can help, because this is, I don't even know what the VIX was that he was just talking about. Like, I've been studying stocks for years, and he mentioned VIX, and I'm like, the fear and greed, and I'm like, oh, maybe that's something I need to look into. But so basically, like I said, the nitty gritty of investing is not my specialty, but when people talk about, you were saying the asset allocation, Guillermo, that was a great breakdown. I've never even heard it broke down that well. But the other one was market volatility. That's when they were saying, you're selling off, you're buying this, that, and the other. That's basically the up and down of the market. That's what market volatility is. When you look at something, when somebody tells you, oh, Tesla's up $2 billion today, or Tesla's down $2 billion tomorrow, that's market volatility. And in the short term, the market will go like this, whoop, 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 up, down, up, down. It'll look like a roller coaster on steroids. But in the long term, theoretically, I don't want to say it's going to always do that, but historically it has. It just goes over and up. And then I lost my train of thought. But basically just, to I was saying earlier to Dr. Phil, I'm like, we don't like talking to people and trying to dumb it down, because we don't want to talk to people like we think you're stupid, but people don't know the basic terminology. When I first started, I didn't know a stock from an ETF. I thought they were just all the same, until I started learning. And a stock is an individual company, and ETF is a basket, basically a box of or a basket of different stocks in one. And I think one of the things I have learned is, I was talking to somebody one time, and we were talking, I said something about investing in the stock market. She says, I don't do that. It's too I'm going to lose my money. They're like, all I'm going to put my money in is my 401k. I'm like, what do you think your 401k is in? The 401k, it's just you paying somebody to invest your money for you in the stock market. The 401k is just the name of the vehicle. It's like taking all your money, putting it in a box. The 401k is the box. And somebody's taking that money out, going and buying some stocks, ETFs, bonds, whatever they're buying, and putting them back into the box, which is the 401k. So you're basically just paying somebody to invest in the stock market for you. And I guess that's all I really had to say.
There's a lot to learn. Okay, Guillermo, were you saying something? Were you trying to chime in at one time?
No,
Okay.
just I have the utmost respect for everybody in the panel, but for the person that is investing for their retirement, that is a long time in the future, it makes no sense to have an asset allocation that has less than 100% in stocks. And you're not going to hear this from many people, because most financial advisors, make their trade by talking about asset allocation and tailoring the portfolio to the person's age and risk tolerance and investment horizon and all that. But I have found in my experience that the best hedge against future volatility is having more money. I mean, if your investments grow at 10% per year, they're going to double every 7 years.
Yeah.
If they're growing at 5%, they're going to take a lot more to double. It's like they're going to take 15 years to double instead of 7. So in 14 years, an investment in stocks is going to quadruple, whereas in bonds, it's just going to double. So over a long time, multiplying it, at the highest rate, it's going to guarantee that you have a high level of money in say 20 years or 30 years, much higher than if you had a balanced portfolio in an asset allocation. So the extra cash in the portfolio acts as a cushion against volatility in the future. And so that's why I say that 100% equities is more appropriate to somebody young that is growing for their retirement. Once you're retired, sure, yeah, you should, have some cash to take care of your immediate needs, especially if you're doing distributions. But during the period of accumulation, of investing, just put it in the highest yielding basket, which is equities.
Equities. Okay. Now, listen, we could stay another 2 hours on question number 1 because there are so many questions that I have to ask, such as what do we mean by bull market, bear market? I am lost, but because of time, let's just jump onto question number 2. Okay, part 2. Okay, which is diversification and risk management. The question is this: how can individuals effectively manage investment risk through diversification, and why is this strategy important for long-term financial success? Let's put that question first of all to Pastor. My friend, how say you?
Yes, Bishop, I was muted. So for me, I could speak for me. I've started invested now some years ago, and when I just started out, I had all my eggs in one basket, and without educating myself, I went in trying to just make it overnight, and paid dearly for it. So I had to go and learn the 5 Ps that I have to prepare properly so I can be successful in this market. So I learn it, then I test it, and then I execute it. When I started out, somebody say, "Oh, you got to have $50,000 to invest, or else you're not going to be anything. You're not going to make it." And I found out that that wasn't true. So I learned that you can buy fractional shares and you can set it where it comes out of your bank account, based on how you can afford it. And you don't feel it. And over a period of time, it will grow and it will bring you a great return. So I tried it. So in one portfolio, I buy the ETF and I put $5 a week in there. And over 2 years, it grows. And then I start another ETF, which is a VOO, which is part of the Vanguard S&P 500. And I put $5 a day in it, and it grows. And then I open another portfolio because at one point the market was really tanking, really bad. So your long-term portfolio was down. So I opened another portfolio and start to buy the same asset at a discount rate, and that grows. And then I use that portfolio interest to buy into the other one. And there's another terminology I'm going to use it. It's called DCA. It's called dollar cost average. It means you average down your average amount that you have in that particular portfolio. So for instance, you're down 30%. You can put in a little bit each time the stock may go down, and that will lower your average. So I do dollar cost average, but I use the money from the other portfolio that I open where I buy stocks at a discount rate. And just to take advantage of this moment, we just started a brand new $5 a day challenge. So if anyone is interested, please reach out. It's not financial advice. Anything that I say is not a suggestion for you to start a portfolio, but I want to educate you of what I'm doing and see if it will help you.
Okay, fantastic. You'll be hearing from some people, I'm sure, my friend. Okay, we are speaking about diversification and risk management. The question is, how can individuals effectively manage investment risks through diversification, and why is this strategy important for long-term financial success? Let's put that this time to Guillermo. My friend, how say you?
Yes. I said before, if you invest in individual stocks, some of them can go out of business and you can lose your entire investment. But if you invest in an index like the S&P 500, which has 500 of the biggest companies in the United States, the index will never go out of business, and your money is not going to go to zero because the index renews itself. In other words, when the top 500 companies, there are companies that are growing and companies that are falling behind. The ones that are no longer on the top 500, they get weeded out of the index, and new companies that are emerging are coming into the index. For example, the S&P 500 index has been around for more than 50 years, but in the 1950s, there were not a lot of technology companies in the index. Today, most of the technology companies that started out in the 80s and 90s, like Microsoft, Google, Apple, all these companies comprise about 25% of the index today. And they weren't around 50 years ago. And so the index renews itself and manages to diversify your risk as an investment.
Okay, hear you loud and clear. Okay, let's put that same question to Leroy at this time.
There's not really anything much different that I could say. I personally, I don't invest in a lot of ETFs in my accounts. I have one account that's one brokerage account that is a dividend account. So I have a lot of individual companies that are dividends. I do have some ETFs that are considered like a high paying dividend, but I try to keep I don't want to say like a balanced portfolio, but I don't have it's probably got 20 stocks in it of various different sectors. And what I do, and I say this is not financial advice, I'm just a truck driver. I'm a truck driver who did some research, learned about the stock market, and I just want y'all to do the same and learn about the stock market and take advantage of it. But what I started doing was, I think some of the best advice I seen on a video was I looked at somebody, they're like, individual stocks are going to give you the most return, but they have more risk than an ETF if you don't know what you're looking for. Now, I started chasing dividends. So I got lucky with some of the dividends I chased, but Um, I invest in things that I use. So, for example, I get gas for my car at the Marathon gas station, and there's a Sunoco gas station in my town and a Shell gas station. So I invest in those three gas companies. Um, I I drink way too much Mountain Dew, which I've cut back on, but Pepsi products and which they also own Frito-Lays, which people like their soda and they like their chips, you know. So I buy I bought into Pepsi, I bought into Coca-Cola. Um I even have some I mean I have just various stocks like that. Anything that I know, I walk around my house and I'm like, what do I have a bunch of in my house? And I look under the sink. I look at all these cleaning products. These are all made by Johnson and Johnson. Well, let me look up Johnson and Johnson. Oh yeah, they're a pretty old company. They're a decent company. They've been around for a while. Well, let me put some of my money in Johnson and Johnson because I look at it like this. If they're going to give me a dividend, I say that dividends. Pastor Brown said that's them, saying, hey, if you invest with us, we'll give you this money. I look at it as that's my salary for being a part owner. So, and then I reinvest the dividends. So one of the things you can do is you want to compound that money. So you don't want to take those dividends and just spend them. You want to put them back into the stock so that now instead of having $5 into that stock, now you have, because of the dividend, now you have $6. So then the next time the dividend comes up, you're getting 5% of $6, or whatever it is. And it just keeps adding up tiny, tiny, tiny little bits. So, and that's my biggest thing. And then people talk about risk management or risk allocation. I think the best way I've heard that broke down in layman's term is when someone says, well, what's your risk tolerance? That's literally how much money can I lose at one time and not lose any sleep over it. So if you don't care about short-term volatility, then I guess your risk tolerance is high. But if you're worried about short-term volatility, where it's like you're watching that stock and you're like, oh my goodness, I just lost $5. One, I wouldn't recommend looking at them every day. And two, I'd put them in something that was not quite so volatile. If you can't pull out, look at it over the 5 year. If you're stuck on the day-to-day chart, then, you want to find stuff that's not quite so up and down so much. So I'd stay away from cryptocurrency if you can't handle volatility. So
Okay, you're loud and clear. Now, let me put this question to you guys because it's something that you all can answer, I'm sure. What are some of the questions that one should ask when investing? You're about to invest. What are some of the questions that you should ask? That's just a general question for you guys.
Why do you want to invest?
Mm-hmm.
What's the purpose? What's the goal? What is it that you're trying to achieve? Where do you believe it can take you if you start? Why should you start now? How much should I start with? What do I need to expect?
Mm-hmm.
Can I lose my money?
Mm.
How can I preserve my gains? What happened at the end of the year for tax purposes? What do I do? Do I sell for a loss? Do I sell for gain? Where do I buy? Do I buy high? Do I buy low? How much do I buy? When do I buy? Which company do I buy into? So there's so much, What to expect is the key to everything, because every time you ask a person, do you open a portfolio yet? Do you start your investment journey yet? They said, no, I'm going to lose money in the stock market. Now, you only lose if you sell for a loss. You may lose value, but you may lose volume, but you don't lose value. So if you own 100 shares of VTI, or say IWM, which is the Russell 2000, which is the small cap, the 2000 small cap companies in America, if you say put $1,000 in there and you buy 100 shares and you see that your portfolio is a little bit in a red, if you don't sell, you don't lose that money. You only lose the volume, but you don't lose the value. You still have 100 shares. So over a period of time, you will regain that 100 shares. So the only time you lose in buying the index fund is when you sell at a loss.
Anyone else like to chime in on that?
Yeah, the question you have to ask yourself is, can you afford not to invest? Can you afford to live paycheck to paycheck? And after you retire, can you afford to live on just Social Security? The answer is that you're probably going to have to curtail your living standards if you're only depending on Social Security. If you put out money today to have a nice retirement nest egg when you retire, then you should ask yourself, how much money do I need? And where can my money grow at the highest annual rate of return, and compound at the highest rate? The answer to that is in stocks, which compared to fixed income, stocks are called variable income in a way because the earnings are not fixed. The earnings of companies go up and down. And in reality, they go more up than down, but they can go down. But in the reality, the earnings are always higher year after year. And so the value of the stocks is always in relation to the earnings that the companies produce. And so, I'm just more partial towards equities than cash or bonds, because a lot of people advocate, well, you should have some money in cash because when stock prices go down, then you can buy more. But the problem is that you don't really know when it's going to go down, and stock prices may go up for 3 straight years, and you're sitting on a lot of cash waiting to deploy. And so that's probably called timing the market, which is something that very few people can do. And the good news is that you don't have to do it in order to save successfully for your retirement. If you just put, monthly amounts in the stock market, in your 401k or in a regular investment account, you're going to do very well indeed.
There's so many questions that I have to ask now. We only have 5 minutes left, honestly, and so many questions, but we have heard a lot and we have said a lot. Okay, with what we've heard and what you guys have said, what should we take away from this conversation tonight? What should we take away from this conversation tonight? Let me put that this time to Leroy. What do you think we should all take away from tonight's conversation, Leroy?
I think if we were to take away one thing, if you were sitting there, if you're watching this, you're asking yourself, how do I invest? So, like I said at the beginning, if you can't find a way to make money while you sleep, you're going to work until you die. And we don't want to work until the day we die. That's why we're here. That's why we're here, to try to learn. So my biggest takeaway is always, and I always say, it doesn't matter if it's with budgeting, trying to get your money under control, or if it's taking that money that you have under control and investing it into something better. Keep it simple. Do not overcomplicate. It's not overcomplicated. You can make it overcomplicated. You can complicate it quite a bit. But if you keep it simple, like Guillermo says, if you put it in the index, the S&P 500, and just let it compound. I love M1 because $50 comes straight. M1's a brokerage account. $50 comes straight out of my paycheck every time I get paid, and it goes straight in there. It puts the money into the stuff I already chose. And it's like Pastor Brown said, I looked for dividend bearing stocks and then I reinvested the dividend, and I don't even think about it. It's the closest thing to passive income that you can get. Just keep it simple. Keep it simple.
Thank you much, sir. Thank you much. Okay, Pastor Brown, how say you? What should we take away from tonight's conversation?
Never think twice about investing in yourself. They pay dividends for a long time.
For a long time. Okay, let's hear it this time from Guillermo.
Yes, I think, if you keep one thing from our conversation today is not to be afraid to invest in the stock market, because if you don't, you're going to miss out on the opportunity to let your money compound at the highest possible rate.
Mm-hmm. Well, with all that's been said tonight, what comes to mind as a preacher are the 4 leprous men that said, "Why sit we here until we die?" In other words, let's make a move. It is important for us, indeed, to invest. If not, we will work until we die. Gentlemen, just want to thank you much for chiming in tonight. Certainly, we have heard a lot, we have said a lot, and you guys certainly do have the knowledge. Thank you much for chiming in to the Bishop's Corner. At this time, it's my pleasure just to hand over to the man himself, Dr. Phil. It's in your hands.
Sorry. Thank you so much, Bishop Scott. That was amazing. That was wonderful. Thank you, guys. Thank you, everyone, for participating in this conversation. We just want to encourage everyone that is watching, please support our platform. You can go to the Phoenix National Network on YouTube and like, share, and subscribe to share with your friends this information. It's important for us to take the time to invest in ourselves. And love what I've heard tonight. It was an amazing, amazing program. We would love your